everyone. Welcome to BJJ and Brews once again. I'm joined by my co-host, Chris Vu.
Good day.
So we're starting to get in the habit of recording a quick little intro before our conversations today. Today you'll be hearing a conversation we recorded a little earlier with black belt Kali Clark. I thought it was a really good conversation. We had a lot of fun. It was someone that's trained almost as long as Chris has. So one of the longer tenured guys.
Yeah. I mean, very, very long. I mean, probably in terms of total martial arts training, equally as long, because if he started at like 18 and I started at 11, he's about 10 years older than me. So that's almost equal amounts of time.
Oh, absolutely.
So
but I was
like
thinking just strictly from
the purely jiu-jitsu. Yeah.
I
mean, almost as long as me. It's just like a year shorter. So
yeah. So as we're going to keep saying, people have been asking us about this. If you want to reach us, you can contact us via social media on Instagram and Facebook at BJJ and Brews. So the handle's the same on both. Or you can also shoot us an email directly at bjjandbrews@gmail.com. Was there anything else you wanted to add, Chris?
If you have any questions for us, that'd be a lot of fun. We got a lot of great ideas in mind. We will execute because that's what we do. Just get prepared for a little bit more of an interactive experience with us.
Yeah, I think we do have some pretty cool ideas, and we're just figuring out the best way to do it, but I think it's going to be pretty darn exciting. But besides that, it was a great conversation with Kali. We're going to keep this short, so now enjoy the rest of the show. All right, good morning. Good morning, Kali. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing outstanding. So Chris and I are here with Kali Clark, and I wanted to start because it's still relatively fresh. You got your black belt less than 2 months ago.
Congratulations.
So walk us through that. Like, how did that feel? Your emotions, all that, because that was how many years? Just go over the whole thing.
It was a long journey. I mean, I've trained with Paul at the gym for about 13 years. Real consistent at the beginning for probably 5 or 6 years, and then life happens. You know, you do work and you get injured, and I didn't get to train as consistently for about a 3-year period. And then the last 3.
What was your injury, just out of curiosity?
I've had multiple injuries, broken ankles, ACL, both knees popped. Lots of things in the back and
so
neck.
all the jiu-jitsu injuries.
All your typical things that you would get. I mean, pretty much at that time, if I wasn't hurt, I wasn't training and stuff. But I learned a lot on how to manage injuries and what to do and what not to do when you actually get hurt along the time.
Was this at Dean University?
Yeah, I mean, I had injuries there. I had injuries at Goldenrod. I had injuries here. So, I mean, I would have a lot of injuries.
Did
sure.
you can you kind of pinpoint like where they happened or how they happened rather?
Specifically, no, it just happened in the natural flow of training. I mean, one time the knee popped when we were doing takedown, and you know my foot caught in the mat and didn't move, and it popped.
That's why you hate this mat.
I do.
I
like the Swain mats better.
That makes all right.
For sure.
Cool.
But probably the biggest thing I learned as I came back the last 3.5 years, if something doesn't feel right, at that point it's time to shut down that training session and allow your body to heal. If you need to see a doctor, and I was pretty fortunate the last 3.5 years, nothing happened other than just some minor setbacks. I would tweak the knee. It would pop, and I'd be able to, take a week or so and not train as hard. Anytime that my neck or back would hurt and I couldn't move my neck, or sometimes wouldn't be able to walk, I just take a couple days off and it would come back. So I was real fortunate. I didn't have to take any treatment or do any surgery the last 3.5 years.
You listen to your body.
I listen to my body, which I think that's the key for
probably a lot of people
for jiu-jitsu. Is I learned that when I was in a bad situation, tap. I mean, if I don't need to be a hero. I mean, I'm an older guy. I'm one of the oldest guys at the gym. I'm 48, and if I'm in a bad situation, I'm gonna try to tap and restart and let's learn from it and try to figure how not to be in that position the next time. But I'm not going to get hurt trying to do that and stuff.
What happened when you hurt your ACL, did you have to have surgery for that, or did you just rehab that?
It was time, really. So with the ACL, they said it was a full tear. You know, I went to the
oh my God.
Yeah, I went to Jewett. The guy looked at my knee and he said, I don't know if it's a full tear. It may be a partial tear. And he said, if you had a full tear, your knee would move like this. And he goes, you have more stability there. And so whatever was wrong structurally with it has come back. But I still, every now and then, I'll tweak it because I don't think you can fully heal without the surgery personally. So I just think, so it's always in the back of my mind. And luckily I haven't had a scare with a knee probably in about a year and a half or so. Last time I had a scare for the knee was right before I was about to compete in the Pan Ams in 2018. That was the last time I had a scare. It was with Julius.
Oh, really?
We
was
were
it
training.
Was it leg lock stuff you were
No,
doing?
we weren't doing leg locks. We were just doing takedowns. I mean, I had transitioned from being on the ground to stand up, and he stood up with me, and he went to take me down, and my foot got caught on the mat. And
Oh
stuff.
my God!
So
Danaher's right. Takedowns are the most dangerous part of jiu-jitsu.
Falling bodies.
Yeah.
Falling body. But the mat thing, I'm starting to see why wrestlers wrestle on rollout mats that don't have gaps in them. Yeah, there's one solid thing. So
it
there's
wasn't
less-
like there was a gap that it was. It was one of the ones that the sticky kind, just like right there on that mat, on our jiu-jitsu mat, was one of those type of mats for sure.
So you said that you've been almost actually around as long as I have. You said a 3-year gap of not training, or inconsistent rather.
Yeah, with jiu-jitsu. I was cross-trained. I was doing I was doing cage fitness. I've always been doing something active, so it wasn't like I stopped doing anything. And what was weird in the time is I would rehab on my own. And
Really?
to try to come back, I would come back and I would tweak something again, and then I would be out again. And so this time when I came back, when I tweaked something, I just stayed focused. I moved and maybe for a week or so I just drilled.
And that was 3.5 years ago. You said
It would have been probably 3.5 to 4 years ago.
So where did it all begin here? Like
How did I get to America?
where did it get to this point? Because like just
Yeah,
reading
sure.
your history there, you're a traditional martial artist first. I mean, similar to me.
Yeah, so
and it shows too. Like you're super respectful. One of the kindest people I've met ever in jiu-jitsu, in my journey as well. And like I can see in your learning style and your level of respect for everybody that there's that traditional aspect there, which is awesome.
Yeah, so I've always done something athletic my whole life since I've been 5. So probably the only time where I wasn't doing something physical is there was a brief period where I was going to school and working, being a father, being a parent, and I didn't have as much time, so I wasn't able to run. And it was probably about a year and a half period, but I made a commitment to myself that it doesn't matter what else is going on in my life. I have to commit at least a set amount per day or per week to do some sort of physical exercise, because I think it's important to keep your body fit and your mind fit at the same time. So, when you're going to school, you're working on your mind, but you also need to do your body as well. And so with my son, I would always talk about, hey, let's do both. So, as I was a child or a youth, I would play baseball, football, soccer, basketball, competitively. Baseball was the sport that I was good at.
You're a local guy too, right?
Yeah. I went to Boone High School.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah,
man,
here
like,
locally.
oh wow. So you're a
Played
true
baseball.
local guy.
Yeah. Played baseball for them. Played. I had a couple college scholarship offers, but I wanted to. I thought I was good enough to go Division I, and I wasn't.
How does that work exactly? So if you I'm not familiar with any team sports basically. So if you're offered scholarships, you said so you forewent those
to actually walk on locally at Valencia and on an academic scholarship versus athletic, and it just didn't work out for me. I got probably the only time in my life where I've truly failed is I didn't make the team for the spring, and
for Valencia.
For Valencia,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
And I walked away and ended up baseball was what I thought I was going to do with my life. Even though I was great in school, that was really what I had focused on for probably 14 years. And
Really?
Yeah.
So were you one of those travel ball kids?
they didn't do travel ball then at the time, but we did have local baseball, and I got to play with some guys that were in the big leagues. I played on a local team briefly with Veritech in the fall.
Did you really?
Yeah, and Johnny Damon would be a year behind me. A guy on my high school team was the first pick in the draft, Paul Wilson.
Veritech was out of Brantley, right?
He was.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go Patriots.
Yeah,
Red Sox.
What do you mean?
Jason Red.
No, it's Lake.
Brantley.
Oh,
They're the
and
Patriots.
they're the Patriots.
Bro.
Yeah,
I didn't know the mascot.
Chris Wu.
I didn't know the mascot of Lake Brantley was the Patriots. My bad.
Give me some credit. I know nothing about sports, but
Yes, so we would that's
Come on,
funny.
man.
Yeah, so it's their Lake Brantley Patriots, which is Noah's a Patriots fan, so he was corrected
You're a
about
Boone
the bus.
Brave, right?
I was a
Boone Brave. There we
yeah,
go.
yeah.
Did you know John Rumsey is a Patriot?
I didn't know that.
I took life skills under his dad in high school.
Wow.
Yeah, like it's
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah. So you played baseball?
I
right?
played baseball, yeah, and it's very competitive. Just like any sport, the more you advance, whether it's from little league to the next level, the next level to high school to college, each one is progressively harder. And so anybody that continues their journey on any sort of professional athlete thing, it's a hard journey. And I think the part that I didn't realize then is, in a journey for the people that usually get to the top, there's probably somebody along the way that says, hey man, you're not good enough. And I think as an athlete or a martial artist or whatever, you need to know how to deal with that. And you need to because if you don't, then you're just gonna you're gonna fail and you're gonna walk away, and quit would be what I would say. So it's tough and stuff.
So I was kind of curious. I have a bunch of questions, but
Sure.
this is a little skipping ahead, but it's something I've talked about with Chris, and I was wondering if you feel the same thing. When you made the transition to do martial arts, and let's just stick to jiu-jitsu because that's what I know. Do you find that when you started doing jiu-jitsu, well after you had been a baseball player, you'd also done some traditional martial arts, but let's just rely on the baseball part. Do you think the fact that you were an active athlete playing baseball helped you pick up jiu-jitsu faster because, let's say, you had better awareness of your body, you already had basic athletic movements? Were there things that you picked up?
Learning to take instruction, I think, is
Exactly. Did
all of
be
sort of
did,
soft skills that are involved.
Exactly. So do you feel like you were better predisposed to learn jiu-jitsu quicker and more efficiently because of the experience you had playing baseball and these other athletic endeavors?
100% yes, I do. I think it helps out. And along my journey the whole time, as I did it, chose a martial art to do, I usually did it because I sucked at it. So I would be not a great stand-up fighter, so I said, okay, I'm going to learn karate. Hey, I'm going to learn MMA, and I'm getting it handed to me because I have no ground game, and so now I need to learn jiu-jitsu. And now a new evolution for me is, hey, my judo, my stand-up isn't as good. I'm good with wrestling, but I want to get better takedowns, so I've started doing judo recently as well.
That's awesome, man.
So I try to generally do it because I'm not good at it, and hopefully I can at least pick something up that can add and make me a better martial artist. I think the MMA fighter really is, especially someone that can handle the stand-up, the takedown, on the ground with jiu-jitsu. That's the most complete martial artist, in my opinion. I think right now we're focused on jiu-jitsu. I think it's a great base art. I think that there's so much that you can expand off of that. But jiu-jitsu now is my base martial art. Before, I would have said karate was my base martial art. But I haven't done any stand-up work probably. And I think I did a karate class at Julius's school probably about 2 years ago. I hadn't put the karate gi on in a while, and I went and did that.
So walk us through, when did you first start doing traditional martial arts, and take us through that journey to eventually starting
Sure.
jiu-jitsu?
So in martial arts, I never did any as the youth. So probably my first exposure would have been while I was in the military. And so
Really? So as an adult?
yeah.
was
So
martial
really,
arts?
I went in the military when I was 19. So I mean,
You're an adult.
are you
I
an
mean,
adult at
I-
19?
I don't consider them adults
Probably
now,
not.
but like my 25-year-old would consider
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you're a fully developed adult at that point. You barely.
Legally, you are.
You really are legally.
Legally
You're
you
legally. I mean, at that time, you couldn't have a beer or do anything like that. I mean, but you could join the army, you could vote, and you could do all that stuff. But so probably the military. They have a real, at that time, poor hand-to-hand type combat thing that you would probably, in my 4.5 years in the army, we would have done for maybe 8 or 10 hours. So to answer your question, the first time would have been after I got out of the army, probably about a year after I did Shito-Ryu karate, a traditional.
Where was that?
So it would have been in Altamont, is where it was.
Is it the place that's above the Hooters in the Walmart Plaza?
It was on an upstairs.
Upstairs,
thing.
really?
Yeah.
Okay, all
and then
right.
the guy moved his gym to like more of a warehouse type settling.
On Sunshine Lane?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you train there?
No, I know him.
Okay. And
Sorry.
and
6 degrees, again.
And I trained with him for about a year. And what's interesting is an instructor that I had later on was his instructor.
How did you find that school?
I think I just looked in the phone book. I mean, you actually had yellow pages at the time.
Yeah, I
As
forgot
wild
you don't
as
Google
that's-
things, right?
You had a yellow. You didn't have a Google search.
Yellow pages.
Yellow.
Yeah.
Shout out to the yellow pages.
They still exist, right? YP.com?
Well, they try to get businesses to advertise here, but I don't. Who the heck knows? I don't think anybody goes there and stuff. But I think that's how I found them. I enjoyed it, but I just didn't have time because that was right when I was starting school, and that got into that phase I was talking about where the focus was working full time, going to school full time.
You were working and going to school at the same time?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Like 50, 60 hours and then a full-time load.
Holy shit.
15 one semester I took 15 hours while working full-time. So
Good God.
so it can that can
So
be
you took a break when you started karate, Shito-Ryu.
Shito-Ryu with an S that time.
Okay.
And then I got back into martial arts when my son would have been 5. So in 2002 is when I got back into martial arts. Is we enrolled him in a karate school because I wanted him to do something physical as well. And so my mom had been an administrator at in Orange County's public schools. She was like an assistant principal, and she knew the guy that had a bunch of karate schools.
Which school was your mom a assistant principal for?
It's the one over. I'm missing. I'm drawing a blank on the name right now. It's in the Rainbow. Was one of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
In Oviedo?
No, Sunrise.
Sunrise. Okay, yeah,
Sunrise. It's in Orlando. She
Yeah.
was in Orange County
Orange County,
and stuff. So it would have been Silverman, Shihan Silverman,
Oh,
which
so-
is
oh, 'cause he
Central
was-
Florida Championship Karate was what it was at the
So
time.
this is before it was championship martial arts.
Yeah, I think we called it CFCK.
CFCK, okay,
at the
alright,
time,
yeah.
and I would have started in Oviedo, right there on Broadway, is where
they're all in Publix plazas, but
yeah, it was in the public.
they know their stuff, man. There's always a UPS store, a karate school, a hairdresser, a Chinese restaurant, all in Publix plazas. That's and it's always a championship martial arts in a
Yeah.
Publix. So you would live in Oviedo then?
I live in Oviedo, and so I went to that school, and then
Hit this girl in the head.
started cross training. I actually cross trained at the first gym that we had. It was cardio kickboxing.
Dean and University?
Dean and University, before it became a jiu-jitsu gym, was a cardio kickbox gym.
Oh, so that's what the rig came from.
that was what that was.
The big rig when you walked into the
Yeah.
left-hand side, and then later he moved. Well, it was an L,
They,
right?
they
with the cage in the
didn't
back.
do anything in a ring per se, but I think the ring came with Renato Tavares when they opened that up. But so they Silverman wanted to do some MMA stuff, and he partnered with Renato Tavares, or Renato came in and used the same space. I'm not sure the business arrangement.
I do, but I'm not- that's
yeah,
another story altogether.
what they had, and they did a Matt Hughes seminar, and a couple guys from the karate school came over. And
Matt Hughes did a seminar at that place?
At that place, yeah.
With them floor bags things?
He did a seminar right there. I was like,
What did I miss back in the day, Chris?
so they had Matt Hughes came in the day of the Tiago Pitbull from ATT.
He came up
He
too?
came up, and he was like, he had just gotten in the UFC. He came up for the seminar. So this would have probably been in like October of 2016. Would have been about the time frame.
2006.
Six. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was like,
six.
no, that's,
yeah. Sorry about
16,
that.
all right.
2006. And so, maybe it was a little. Maybe it was early. It had to have been late because I started in February of 2007 is when I started, and I was at that time still doing karate and cross training.
Karate in Oviedo.
And
cross training.
and then cross training.
The kick punch fitness. Or
Well, before the gym opened up for jiu-jitsu.
Cardio kickboxing.
It was cardio kickboxing.
I think
you guys called it.
I think it's kick punch fitness.
That's what you guys.
That's
called
what we.
it.
Yeah, all right, sorry.
they
I
called
apologize.
They called
That's
it.
your bias. Wait. When you say that's what you guys called it, who were you guys? Tell me the clique you were in at this time, Chris.
No. I think that's when Paul took over after they booted Hanato.
They called it that. Absolutely.
Because cage fitness is a trademark thing, right? Like,
Yes.
because that's what Matt Hughes was doing, and
Yes.
that's like he's on the posters. I think Jason Patino is in the damn video.
he was in
for
the
it.
video.
Yeah, he's in like the promo video for it. So like, there's cardio kickboxing, which you were doing.
Yeah.
Cage fitness is what the branded thing that like all those those bags with the straps on them that say cage fitness. Those
They
are
say
from
cage.
they're from Century Martial Arts, all by way of Silverman, and they're very good business people. And then when Paul came in, this on the schedule wasn't cage fitness; it was kick punch fitness.
That's correct.
So.
okay.
So it's like all these CrossFit gyms that you see that used to be CrossFit gyms, now it's just like Red Fire and Blood and Chains, and they removed the CrossFit thing.
Or functional fitness.
Yeah, we just don't want to pay the damn thing, you know. So,
So you just spray painted out the logos on the bags.
but so you were doing that.
And trying to take some. I was doing MMA. I mean,
And doing MMA by way of Hanato.
Hanato and I probably took a couple of gi. Let's say probably 10 gi classes because my focus was cross training on MMA at the time.
What was, like, aside from just fitness, sticking with martial arts to maintain that level of fitness, what was your ultimate goal? Was it self-defense? Was it just structure? Was it just the thing that you found the most fun? Like, why did you stick with martial arts versus doing another team sport?
It was fun. I mean, I liked it. I enjoyed the competition, the camaraderie. It's really, I liked the challenge of getting better. I really liked, and the reason why I've stuck with the gym the whole time is the people at the gym push you to get better and stuff. And the quality was and still is very high at the gym, and that's how you get better, in my opinion, as a martial artist. Is you have to get outside of your comfort zone. You have to train with people that are better than you to push you to get better and help you solve problems that you're having. If they are better than you, they may be physically better and they may always beat you. And I've had guys I've trained with the entire time that I've trained that are still better than me and still can beat me anytime we go on the mat and stuff. And I'm okay with that, because the thing that's good with that, in my opinion, is that I get better. My timing is better. I anticipate things better because I'm able to train with them. And that's how I think you evolve. Was there any end goal? I don't think so, Chris. I think my end goal is just to train as long as I can. And one thing that was kind of cool in this last 3.5 years is I always thought, as I'm approaching 50, I'm 48, I go, man, my body's breaking down. And so, I talked about how I was hurt, and I go, I'm not going to be able to do this much longer, is what I was thinking the whole time. And, luckily, you get somebody like a Jim Andrews, good friend of mine, that says, hey, man, get your butt back in the gym. Or Paul one time saw one of the coolest things he said. He saw me like jogging one day, and he said, hey, man, get your ass back in the gym. I was exercising, but, it's good when you're not able to train, or you're not here and you should be, when you have your friends reach out and say, hey, you need to get your butt back in the gym and stuff. And I think the only way you can get better as a martial artist is to continue to evolve and try to work your game and stuff. And one other thing too that I think is important, and this has kind of been more of a focus the last year and a half is help other people get better. I know that's always in your DNA, is for Chris Vu's always try to help other people get better. But I think that's also part of, evolving as a martial artist. It's not just about you. It's really about helping your teammates get better as well. And I think because I know my time on the mat will be limited, but the knowledge we can pass on to our friends, other people, and then they can pass on to somebody. That's what kind of keeps the what we're doing pure, in my opinion. So
it sounds like, from a goal point of view, you are very much a lifestyle martial artist. Like, this is what you found something that you're passionate about, that you love, that you want a part of your life as much as you can, and you're just going to keep doing it as long as your body. And I don't see why you can't do it well into the glory days. You know what I mean? Like, I really, with the way
lifestyle. I mean, he's also competitive as well. Like, he's competed on an international level, right? I mean, like, I'm a lifestyle martial artist because, like, I'm the least competitive guy here, right? But, like, he's actually trained for competition, though, so he's willing to step out of his comfort zone and do that. What made you decide to? So, like, what made you transition away from karate and traditional martial arts and really spearhead doing the more combat sports versus martial arts? Let's just say it that way.
So I like contact. I like whether it's in grappling, hitting, being hit. I like that. I played contact football. I enjoy that part of the of either athletics or what we do here. Jiu-jitsu, one thing and I've heard you guys talk about going hard. One thing that we can do, for the most part, is if we go close to 100% with someone, it's really, you probably aren't going to get hurt if you're going with someone that understands what you're doing. They have a basic understanding. They have normal reactions to certain things. I like that with jiu-jitsu, we can go hard with the right people. I mean, you don't want to go hard with a brand new person or someone that doesn't want to go hard with you, and you can challenge yourself to get better. I love the contact, so that was probably the first thing. Different from MMA, or Muay Thai. When you go hard in one of those, I mean, you can get hurt. I mean, when you start throwing with bad intentions and hitting people in the face, nobody likes to get hit in the face. You can hurt somebody, and you can get hurt, kicked in the leg. There's a lot of things that can happen. But for the most part, if you're smart and you know when to tap, and you're understand that what you're doing is having an impact on your friend that you're rolling with, you can limit the action that could hurt them potentially and stuff. So that really I love problem solving. I'm an accountant by trade, and so I love more recently, as I try to solve problems of situations that I'm having trouble with, I love the problem-solving aspect of jiu-jitsu. I know people say human chess, but I really like that. And I like to see people that are really book smart getting good at jiu-jitsu because of their efforts in studying, drilling, and practicing. Because that's one thing that's changed, too, in this last 3.5 years is, and I've told you this, Chris, is I would come to class the whole time, and I'd be thinking about, hey, I'm going to roll with that guy, that guy, that guy. This is what I'm going to do. And I wasn't paying as much attention in class.
Really? So you're that transparent about that you were going to class and you had your hit list. It's like, opponent number 1, opponent number 2, opponent number 3.
Not really a hit list, but I would know who Paul was going to match me up with. He would always match me up with a big guy that was like me, an aggressive guy. And so I know that I was going to go with that guy, and I would be anticipating that throughout the class versus focused on the training. And I think that really what I should have been focused on is the training, the technique, because that's how I would have got better at jiu-jitsu at that point, not worrying about the rolls and the live grappling, because you're just in those roles, you're just working on stamina, toughness, whatever.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think I applaud you for saying that, because I'm sure you're not the only person that is like that on the mat.
I think humans in general, we all have egos, right?
We're always comparing. So I think the fact that you admit that, I think some people will listen to like, oh yeah, I do that too. I just don't tell anybody that, but I do that too. So I think I think that's totally honest. Like I'm like that. There are certain people.
Certain days, yeah, where you're just like, yeah, like it's. So when you stepped away from I'll call them TMAs, right? Traditional martial arts. You just kind of Paul stepped into the picture. Tavares. How many actual sessions did you have with Tavares? And were you only doing kick punch fitness, or were you doing MMA and jiu-jitsu with him, or what was?
So I was doing the kick punch fitness stuff just to kind of for fitness.
And who was teaching that at the time?
I don't even remember. They may have had a.
Oh, really?
I don't even remember at the time who was doing that. I remember. For jiu-jitsu, it was Fabian, and it was Jensen.
Oh, so Fabian and Jensen were hired by...
And it was Hanato. They were all training there.
Really?
Yeah, and those guys, obviously super high level. I think they were both brown belts at the time. I can't remember. Jensen definitely was a brown belt.
And Fabian was a belt above him, so they're probably the same belt at the same time.
Yeah, so they were probably, real. Fabian got promoted to black belt soon after that, if he wasn't a black belt right then. And so they would kind of do the jiu-jitsu classes. Occasionally,
they were actually teaching.
They were
teaching.
Absolutely, they were teaching some too. That's what I remember now.
As a weird, not to cut you off, but so my first jiu-jitsu class ever. Guess who taught the class?
Fabian.
Fabian was a brown belt, and Jensen was a purple belt.
Wow.
Yeah. Cartwheel guard pass. First lesson.
No stripe white belt?
No stripe. Literally 2 dudes, me and my buddy Steve Nyland, off the street, came in to join. At the time, it was Marcio Simas, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, not even Gracie Baja. Fabian and Jensen teaching. Cartwheel guard pass. Lesson number 1.
Yeah, but you could do that because of your past martial. I mean, you had that. You nailed that.
What happened to your friend? Did he stick with martial arts?
So he continued to train jiu-jitsu while I was doing Muay Thai. And he was a high school wrestler anyway, so like he was just, and he's just like this guy who like, I'm trying to think of somebody who doesn't look necessarily like super athletic, but is strong as fuck here. But he was that guy. He came from New York. He's this high school wrestler, strong as hell. Gave up jiu-jitsu. I think he continued to train with Mitch afterwards. But either way, yeah, this is Kali. So you train with Jensen and so how many days a week were you doing karate at that point?
I would have been doing karate at least 3 or 4 times a week.
Oh, really? So you were super consistent with karate.
At that point, I was real consistent. I think I was like, I'd been doing it for 6 years. I was getting ready to possibly test for 3rd degree. So I never did test for 3rd degree because I made the transition over and didn't learn all the katas and stuff that you needed to do.
Why did you give it up?
I actually, in my mind, was taking a break because I really wanted to focus on jiu-jitsu. I knew that it was a hole in my game, that I wasn't good on the ground, and I needed to get better, and just to be a better martial artist and stuff. It's such an important part. That first instructor that you talked about, he always talked about jiu-jitsu even though he was showing us karate, and he always said that it doesn't matter whether you start standing up or on the ground, you're always going to get up on the ground. So whether it's figuring out how to get back up off the ground or how to take someone down, you're going to be on the ground. And so he had a background in jiu-jitsu. Probably one of the greatest martial artists that I know. His name is Shihan Bulldog Kelly. I don't know if he was his instructor, King. It was Sensei King, who's now a
You need to know this person, Chris.
King is the Shitoru.
Yeah,
I don't know who
and his
Bulldog
instructor
Kelly is.
was Bulldog Kelly.
Okay.
And so if you were doing martial arts back in Orlando in the 60s, like if you were a cop back then, you would have done Bulldog's gym.
Oh,
He was the beat 'em up MMA type gym, for traditional martial arts back then. I mean, he is as high of a level martial artist as you can have. I mean, he is like an American samurai type of guy, is what that guy is.
I find this interesting because I've heard, and you guys can correct me on this, that karate before the 90s, before it became really popularized, as people say, by the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and it really became catered towards targeting kids and stuff, in the 70s and the 60s, there was ground fighting, there was, for lack of a better term, more of a toughness to it, more of an edge to it, more of an MMA to it. Is that fair to say, or am I misinformed?
Bro, I'm 37 years old, man.
But you're a historian, Chris.
I guess, okay, so, like, if you watch something like Fighting Black Kings, so if you watch, like, the tournaments and stuff that, like, somebody like Bill Wallace came up in, or Joe Louis, or somebody like, just, like, or, like, Chuck Norris even, It was weird, no face contact karate by the hands. You could kick to the face. It was good hard body hits with limited grappling. Like I would say, like if you close the distance enough, you could like do like a judo trip and end like a fake face punch. So like I think that's sort of the rule set you're talking about, right? Where there was a bit more contact.
Yeah, these guys would have probably punched each other in the face. Would have been so Bulldog or Shihan Kelly. He he would have done his first one would have been judo. He would have learned judo in Japan.
Oh, so was he like a vet?
Yeah, he was.
Okay, so that makes a lot of
so
sense.
So he learned judo.
So
over
he
there.
learned something that was actually probably pretty close to jujitsu, or
Yes,
to what we know as jujitsu.
Yeah, he called it taijitsu, and literally when he would grab you,
Taijitsu.
that's what he called it, I think, because
And Thai is in like Thailand, just like Muay Thai.
no,
TAI.
yeah, taijitsu, just like that, yeah.
So what is that a
So
derivation
you go
from?
back to like the history of like karate and aikido and jiu-jitsu and stuff like so. This is, mind you, this is like third hand by way of like John Danaher's book from 2005. I'm pretty sure everything sort of post feudal Japan became Aiki Jiu-Jitsu, and then there became styles of Jiu-Jitsu within that, and like that's where you get like Aikido, Judo, Jiu-Jitsu, Taijitsu.
Well, when Dylan says I did Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, what is he referring to?
He's referring to one of the many styles of Japanese. Wait, Dylan Gower?
Yes.
Dylan Gower says he did Jiu-Jitsu?
Japanese Jiu-Jitsu and Aikido. So what happened is he put me in a weird wrist lock, and I was like, what is that? He's like, well, I did Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, and that was something in there, along with Aikido.
Really? I didn't. I always thought he was a judo like brown belt.
He was.
Maybe he is.
He is, not was. Yeah, he did judo, and it wouldn't surprise me that he would do that.
Ooh, I think we have
As well.
an idea for a guest soon because I got to pick his brain. But so he did.
Who, by the way, when this happens, will have gotten his first degree.
Second degree.
Oh, second degree? I thought he'd been a black belt for 4 years.
How long is
It's at least 4. Yeah, it was when we were over on.
It's either 4 or 6.
Goldenrod. It's
Paul is putting a degree on his black belt today at his gym.
probably in the next 10 minutes.
As of this recording, when this drops, is well into the future.
hey, congrats, Dylan.
Yeah, awesome, Dylan. So you were doing.
So
you steered away from traditional martial arts.
So yeah, but I was just talking about
How is this beer, by the way?
it's good. Now I miss the whole craft beer revolution and stuff. I don't really drink beer that often. I probably had a handful last year, and this is the first time that I've ever had this. Chris gave me.
No. They're not sponsors yet.
Oh, okay.
You don't mention
Never mind.
them.
We won't mention.
Do you like the strawberry lager? Don't say the name of the brand.
It tasted fine. Yeah,
Good.
it was a solid.
Chris has got
solid
a lot of pots in the oven right now. He's got a lot.
Working on some sponsors. Grubbing, you might say.
No, absolutely not. It's a partnership.
It's a business partnership. You're right.
Exactly. So, Kali, you're doing jiu-jitsu now. What was your experience moving up the ranks? My understanding is you trained exclusively under Paul. In terms of getting promoted, I'm sure you went to other schools and dropped in. I know you're a fan of traveling around, and I do want to touch on that because you're one of the few people that I know at this gym that has extensively dropped into other gyms. And I want
outside of Central Florida.
exactly. I mean, and we're talking about Marcelo's, Henzo's.
Traveling.
Yeah, so I want to talk on that because I think talking about the etiquette behind that and how that is a really interesting topic. And one I think people probably need to get educated on a little bit. At least I would say, because what we do at our school might not be what people do at other schools. But let's not get ahead of ourselves because I want to finish this timeline from you starting all the way up to you getting your black belt. Because I opened with, what did it feel like getting your black belt? And yeah, we started with the end first, but let's come all the way up to that and then move forward. So you started training with Paul. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you train for the predominantly under Paul all the way up to black belt?
The whole time I've trained jiu-jitsu, it's been under Paul or under a student of Paul. So one of Paul's black belts or brown belts or even blue belts at time. I mean, at the beginning, he would have a blue belt leading the class, like a Steve Ramos would have been a blue belt leading the white belt class.
And I've heard Steve Ramos,
he was a beast.
Would rip people off.
Well, he's a beast, man.
He's the typical, like, he could be off for 6 months, come in and just clean the floor.
He's like a Zach. Just comes back and just murders everybody.
And he won the Ultimate Fighter Mexico, I think, or Latin America.
Yeah, so like there was some like bootleg Ultimate Fighter show in Mexico.
And he won it.
It was like El Ultimo
Luchadoro.
Yeah, something like that, right? Yeah, he flew down there. That was at Dean University, right?
Yeah, he's legit one of the best grapplers that I've gone with in my time.
Bro.
I mean...
Like snaps, like zip ties with his bare hands. Just like... Pink, pink. Like, it's ridiculous.
So when I did my blue belt test, he was testing for purple belt. And, when we were doing the gauntlet, whatever you want to call that, there were a couple of blue belts that had to go with him, or guys that were going to go for their blue belt, and he tore them up so bad that Paul said, "Hey, man, he's not going to even go the next round because he was
both of you attack him at one time
because Steve was working him over that good. He was legit good, and I will, from that blue belt test, there is a funny story. I want to say one funny story about that.
Go for it.
So we're doing a gi test for blue belt, and Kenny, and I think everybody knows who Kenny is.
I know Kenny.
Do you know who Kenny is?
I've heard stories about Kenny.
So,
he's the homeless guy that...
Yes, I heard stories about Kenny. I don't know if we want to talk about Kenny too much because...
Is he not?
I don't think so.
Have you seen Kenny lately?
I haven't seen him recently.
You realize he's like Brian McKenzie size.
The last time I saw him, he came into the gym.
Yeah,
I got to roll with him.
Yeah.
He was a little bigger than the last time we trained.
A little bigger? I didn't even I did the thing. I might have mistaken him for Brian McKenzie right off the bat. I did the thing. I'll just leave it right there.
But anyway,
2 beers in, by the way.
But on the test, so we're doing a gi test, right? And they're starting to stand up. And
when you say gi test, is this grappling or technique?
So at that time, the way we did it is we had a list of techniques that Paul would, and it's similar to what we're doing now. A list of techniques. Paul could ask you to do the techniques, and then we had I think it was like a 3-minute free flow where you would show all of the techniques as well. And then I think we were doing 2 5-minute rounds for blue belt at the time, where they would rotate a new guy in like every minute.
Sure.
I can't. Real similar to what we're doing now, but and it may have been every 2:30. I think it was every 2:30, which makes it can be more challenging if 2:30, especially if you're going with like a Steve Ramos or something like that.
When I did it, I was every 2:30. Subsequent, because we had so many upper belts, we could actually rotate in every 1 minute on the white belts.
1 minute is really challenging if you're rotating a new guy in every minute. So Kenny, when the bell goes or Paul says go, Kenny literally takes his gi top off. Now, again, we're tested for gi.
I like this story already.
He wasn't going with me. He would have been going.
But he was testing at the same time. You were testing.
Yes,
and you were both testing for your blue belts.
He's testing for his blue belt.
I like this. This is a good strategy.
Takes his
no lapel guard if the gi is not there.
He takes his gi off, and all Paul goes is time. He goes, "Come on, man." He goes, "This is a gi test. You gotta put your gi top back on." And he made Kenny put his gi top on.
Did Kenny explain what he was thinking?
No, I don't know what he was thinking.
Thinking and Kenny are 2 words that should be mutually exclusive.
But that's one of my favorite stories that we've had is the gi test where he took his gi top off. I mean, that's not going to work.
Did he have a rash guard, or was he just shirtless?
He probably was shirtless.
Even better.
This is like billions of companies of rash guards, mind you. So
yeah, he probably.
This is probably like during the time where if you had a rash guard, you had to go literally buy like a surfing rash guard,
And it could,
oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It could have been one of the rank shirts.
Oh my god.
Oh, wow. That's
so
crazy.
who knows?
Now, what about for your purple belt? Did you have to test for that, or were you just awarded that?
Yeah. We tested for that too, and we had about 7 people that tested. So that was an interesting test. we did the technique test. We did the we showed our we did the free roam or whatever you want to call that, and then we did our live training, and then we didn't get promoted for about a month.
Paul's mentioned this to me, that there was a time for what, and I forget the reason, where he tested all these people and they had to wait a month before they got actually promoted.
So
Was that because of the gym being moved or something?
No, it was because of the people that I tested with, and so I come, like Chris said, from traditional martial artists. So a couple things that I won't do is I won't ask the instructor, "Hey, are you going to promote me?" I don't ask a higher belt. For the most part, I may have done it a couple times. I never asked a higher belt to roll with me. If they wanted to roll with me, I was very happy. I think if they were a real close friend, I may have asked somebody occasionally. And if we were at some time the same rank, I may have asked and violated my protocol. But that was at our gym. And we don't have a protocol at our gym like that. I mean, you can ask anybody to roll. And I'm very comfortable with anybody asking me to roll, but I just didn't do that. But they were asking Paul, "Hey, man, when are we going to get our belt?" And all of that. And so it turned into...
so everybody gets punished.
Everybody got punished. And so we all got to wait. And I think one of them even put a note, like with a knife on it, that said, "Hey, man, when are we getting our belts?" And
Paul told us that story.
And
who was it?
It was Crotty.
Okay. Yeah.
Eric Crotty did that, we think. I can't remember. And so, again, it ended up being about a month. I can't remember if we had a ceremony or if it was one day in class. I do have a photo of all of us standing together. So Paul must have done it, one of the classes. But it wasn't like we do now, a Saturday. It was like just a random day that we all got our belts. And I do want to tell you the coolest one that I've seen or not seen, and Paul's posted it a couple times, is we had a guy we trained with. I trained with him for probably 2-3 years. Gatehouse, Tony Gatehouse. He's in the Navy.
Oh, okay. Funny story. So sorry to interrupt. I got a Tony Gatehouse story from yesterday or 2 days ago. The last class I'm in, we're doing the waiter sweep, and I'm the uke for Paul. And Paul's talking about, well, when you do the waiter sweep, don't be lazy. Make sure you come up fast, because a guy with, well, he talked about hurting the person's knee, but he said another person can just get you in this position. He said, I've seen this happen once in a competition where the guy came up slow and got stuck, and then the opponent who was being swept just squeezed his legs together. And he's like, he's like, imagine like if someone has Tony Gatehouse legs and only
the sandwich, but with his legs.
Exactly, and only Jamie and Mark Peace got it. I was like, who's this Tony Gatehouse guy? And then he explained that this guy's legs were so strong that he could have he tried to pass this guy's guard, and he'd have his hand pinned between his thighs, and he'd have to go back and actually physically remove his hand because he couldn't just like pull it out when he's so imagine having a lasso guard and trying to break a lasso guard, except he doesn't have a lasso. He just has your hand pinned between his thighs. That's how.
Yeah, he's real strong. He's a great guy, and over the time that I train, there's always there's times in 13 years where there's a guy that, hey, that's my consistent training partner. I'm going to get, every time I roll, Paul's going to match me up with him, because we were same belt or within one belt of each other. I think he was a blue belt and I was a purple belt, but Tony got promoted on the spot during class during live rolling. That's the video. I don't know if you've seen Paul.
I don't think I've seen that
the video, but he's posted it a couple times, but literally we were doing Randori, and Paul came out with the belt, and I think he like hit him on the back and stopped the roll and promoted him right then.
That's pretty
cool. Which was pretty cool, and he deserved it. I mean, he was a great guy.
What belt did he get then?
He a purple belt.
Purple. Okay.
Yeah, and he's almost a black belt. He trains up in Jacksonville. I follow him on Facebook, and he's retired from the military now. But he has a funny story too that I do want to say, his funny competition story, and he posted it on Facebook. Is he was doing some tournament, and he's a big guy. He's 220 to 240. He's probably 240 now. And the guy he's going up against is 400 pounds.
Wait, what?
He's 400 pounds, Chris. This is the biggest man you've ever seen. He looks like
football player big, or like
strongman big, like strongman big. So this guy's like a executive banker type. And so Gatehouse. So listen to this. He's outweighed by 150 pounds. Gatehouse goes, hey man, you know what my strategy is going to be? I'm going to shoot in, double leg this guy, and take him down. And so Tony,
Why would you make that your strategy on somebody my weight bigger than
this
you?
is a 400-pound man, and you go to these tournaments. Usually, there may be a guy that's over 300 pounds, but usually once they start getting well over 300 pounds, they don't have the cardio to do anything.
It's not a solid 300.
Yeah,
right?
but this guy was just a large man. He was like 6'6" plus, just a big, large dude. And so Tony shoots in, and the guy sprawls. And lays on him for the next 5 minutes.
I thought he was good. I thought it was going to end way differently.
No, man.
I thought you were going to give him some huge superhuman
No.
story.
Poor Tony couldn't be. He was stuck, man, underneath this big, large man, and the guy was huge, and it was just like a grappling strategy that didn't work, and he was stuck for the whole time.
Like
so
pancaked him completely.
Pancaked him for 5 minutes, man.
Oh my god.
Poor guy. He still talks about it. He posted.
Is that it?
No, but this is who Mikey won his first fight at Absolutes. So Mikey Musinesi,
Oh my god.
he beat this guy.
Just taking his back and just okay.
No, I don't know what he did. He went close. Then he lost to Muhammad Ali.
So to answer,
But it was a really good fight. But sorry to go.
no worries.
Go ahead.
But formal test for blue belt and brown belt. Purple belt, and then brown belt happened as it did in the black belt as well.
I was there for your brown belt.
Yeah, because you
the
got
week
promoted
before.
at Longwood.
Yep.
And then you came over here, and Laborio was here for the brown belt, and I think Paul promoted about 4 or 5 guys.
You,
Ryan,
Tyler. Shout out to Tyler.
Steve Wynn.
Steve Wynn. That's right.
There was at least 4 or 5.
Yeah, it was a lot. I have the picture somewhere.
And these are all from purple to brown.
From Purple Brown, yeah. Because, me, Cole, Morrow, Bert.
Brian, right?
Brian McKenzie got his from... he actually got his from Black Box. So we got the week before, and the next week, Laborio gave Paul his 3rd stripe.
Yes.
Yeah, his 3rd stripe on his black belt, and that was at Orlando's promotion.
Yeah, here at Orlando.
Yeah. Which is also an inventory day for me, incidentally, so...
You and your inventory.
You're an accountant, so you understand.
Yeah, I understand.
So I'm trying to think now. So what year was it that you got your brown belt?
It would have been 3 years ago in January, so probably about 3 years. 3 years from
check
today,
Belt Checker.
he could check. He
Oh,
could
you
check, but
you
right
bastard.
around 3 years is what it was.
And you are verified now?
No, I'm not verified.
Okay. So we're back to a little over a month ago. Paul calls your name. He puts a black belt around your waist. What's going through your head?
A lot of emotion. You feel amazing. You're there because of really all your teammates is why you're there, because you were able to train with them. They helped get you to that point, and you never are ready or think you're ready, and it even makes it even harder because now you just have to. Hopefully you're focusing the whole time, but you focus even more. I could just go from the last time I got promoted as a brown belt. It invigorated me and really caused me to change, to try to evolve. And that's what I'm trying to do now. I'm trying to evolve and get better at jiu-jitsu because, I need to. I need to get better when I'm leading a class. I need to get better with my technique. I need to get better when I'm rolling. The rolling part is going to be more challenging because as you age, that's the part of your game that will break down. So really, I didn't talk about how I felt more comfortable that the end wasn't near. As I had a chance to train with a good friend of mine, Tarsus Paula, for about 2 to 3 years. I probably did a couple hundred hours with him.
How did you get involved with Tarsus?
So I was going to the morning class because of my work schedule. It's easier for me to train in the morning because in the evening it doesn't work as good for me to train in the evening. So I need to be morning and weekends is when I train. And they had a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class over there, and I got to train with him and Julius pretty consistently, along with a bunch of brand new white belts for about 2 years. So we really were focusing on basic techniques, the techniques when I wasn't in class paying attention, that the details that I missed the first, second, third, fourth time around, to kind of help me evolve from a technique perspective. And then also getting to roll with two real super high level guys, because of the guys that I train with and go with. I mean, Julius is the top, one of the top of the food chain, and so is Tarsus. They're also great grapplers, and so it really helped out. But the thing that a couple things that he taught me that still stick with me is, I heard you say it on one of your podcasts, if you want to pass the closed guard, you need to stand up. I mean, I had a guy tell me that for 3 years, and it was after I stopped training with him consistently that it finally sunk in. I go, man, I got to stand up to pass guard. And I think that that's a core thing. You can pass guard on your knees, and I can get away with it from time to time. But as a person's guard retention gets better, it makes it more challenging to try to pass on your knees. At least that's what I've found.
Yeah, in my experience, since you made that transition to trying to work on your feet versus your knees, it's been much harder to keep you off me, like 100%. Have you noticed a difference between? Because I mean, like, everything always goes back to Paul, right? Like, because he's the originator in Orlando here of MMA and Jiu-Jitsu, one of the at least. What keeps you with, and this is, I don't want to make it too political or anything, but what keeps you with Paul versus what, Tarsus did leave East Orlando. He started his own gym. You were getting a lot of mat hours. 200 hours is a lot of hours. Did you just feel a compulsion to stay here out of loyalty, or do you feel the instruction? I don't want to make it all weird, but I just honest question,
So, for me as a martial artist, I definitely stay clear of any politics on the mats. That'd be the first thing I say. I like to have fun. I like to get better as a martial artist. I like to get the people that I'm training with to get better. So, I can tell you that any time that I'm on the mat with Paul, I learned something new, and especially the way, the knowledge base. The good thing is, if you're staying abreast with current trends, your game is always evolving, and the level of instruction that we have at the academy, where it's at now from where it was when I started, is night and day. I was in one of our morning classes that we were doing, and Paul was there that morning, and he showed us the most simple guard pass, and I forget which one it was.
Like a stand up to a
it was just like some real simple guard pass, like a knee, wasn't it from Z guard? He was showing us like a real simple Z guard pass, but the details that he gave that time there, and whether my ears weren't listening to the same details, or whether those details are now there and he's articulating when he's teaching, it's just, that was world class, and that was just like a random Tuesday or Thursday morning.
It was actually 2 Tuesdays before we both got our black belts.
Yeah, and it was wild. We had like 5 guys there, and you just go bam. It blows your mind on how that was. And so I love training here, and I love the people here. I guess that's the thing that kept here.
One thing that I thought was really cool, and I would say unusual, is when you gave your, because when you get your black belt, it's kind of the expectation is you give your little speech, and everyone's there, they don't know what to say, but everyone's very gracious. You are extremely gracious, and obviously, like you said already, like, you thanked everybody as being a part of that, but you also like to single out a few people. You singled out Jim Andrews, but you also singled out a blue belt in John Rumsey, who we had on the podcast. And I thought that was very interesting for someone that, not because he's a blue belt, but for someone that you've known less than most of the other people. Like Jim, you've known for way longer. What was it about John that made it necessary in your mind to single him out? Not that you're not giving credit to everyone else, but to bring him out and to name his name. What made it important for you to do that?
So, and I talked about it earlier, there's always that guy that you get matched up with. At times it's been Jim Andrews, where Paul would always put me where I'm going to roll with Jim. Or it would.
I wish I had seen some of those battles. Like,
Yeah, Jim always tells a story that the first time he met me, I tried to throw him through the window. I guess because that's back. Because what's funny is I earned the bull in the china shop like multiple times. Paul gave me that before I learned I was that.
I didn't
dude.
know that, but
I was
no
that.
surprise.
I was that dude for a while, but I've learned. Because I was training over there with white belts, you learn to train at the level that you need to train, plus where you can work on things. Because I think that always training with the same people can keep your game stale, but training with different people helps you work on things. And if I can make it work with this person, maybe I can work with this, and you can move it up, and maybe you can work it against someone that's a similar belt or size. But John, over the since I've come back, he started over there with Tarsus. He trained, and so he was at every class that I was at. I went to competition with him.
he was doing morning classes over there also.
Yeah, before he
Okay,
started over here, he was.
when we say there, we're talking about East Orlando.
East Orlando, and yeah, he was doing and so I probably over that period of time, no one's been more consistent with him. I've consistently trained with him. Julius, I've consistently trained for that period. I haven't until recently gotten a chance to train with Julius. So, and what's nice with John is he's a similar body size in terms of size, but he's stronger than the guys I would compete against. He's more fit than the people that I would compete against. So he's a great partner to go with to try to simulate what I would potentially be facing in a competition against because the guy that I'm going to go against is not going to be as athletic as John. They're going to be, I'm 48, so they're going to be 45 to 49 years old. They're going to be a big guy. They're going to be over 220 pounds. They're going to be a little more experienced than John because they've trained jiu-jitsu. So because at that time when I was competing, they were a brown belt, they probably trained for 3 more years than John or 4 more years. But they hadn't trained for as many years as I had because of the standards that Paul has for promotions and for that. I mean, he has high standards, and you talked about going to other places and training, and even going to competition. And I would put our blue belts against other blue belts, our purple belts against other purple belts, brown belts against brown belts. I mean, there's a high standard in our academy, which is important, that's just how I feel on that.
So let's go on to the whole traveling thing. What's it like dropping into gyms, and how do you handle kind of the etiquette behind it? Because you've gone to a bunch of places, and where I am with stuff is like we said, we're not a very traditional school. We adhere to some traditions, but stuff that you mentioned, like not if right now I'm a blue belt, it would be out of line for me to ask a purple belt or a brown belt to roll. Here, that's not a problem. Like, I could go up to anybody and be like, hey, you want to roll? And they can say yes or no, but we don't adhere to the belt rank in that respect.
Yeah,
but
you're not disrespecting them by challenging them.
Correct. I even had an experience where we had a school come visit and train with us, and there was a brown belt, and we're doing grip voting, and I turned around, and there's a brown belt, so pick a new partner. I was like, hey. And the guy looked at me kind of like, now I realize what happened, but he looked at me kind of funny, like, what's we were grip fighting for a minute, but I could tell that it was very likely if the school where he comes from, that was a no-no. That was frowned upon. So I know if I go to another school, I'm going to adhere to the strictest protocol possible to not overstep bounds. That being said, Noel, what's your experience been dropping in? What are some of the cool ones you've had? Because you've gone to Marcelo's, you've gone to Henzo's. What are
So Tarsus encouraged me because he knew I traveled for work. So I travel for work. I probably do. I think I did 85 days with Marriott last year. Some of that's going to be personal, but I probably travel about 50 days for work. And so,
do you pack a gi?
I don't every time, so it depends on the trip. More recently, I'm doing 1 or 2 days, and so what I'll do now is I'll try to fly out after a morning class. So if I'm in control of the travel and it's a little flexible, and I did this past week, is I flew out Tuesday afternoon, evening, so that I could do the class in the morning. And so if I'm doing that, then I don't necessarily have to bring a gi for a 2-day trip. But if I was going for 5 days and I wasn't training and it was a tough week the week before and I wasn't able to train as consistently, I would bring a gi. But I didn't do it all the time. And, I was going up to New York City. This is probably the first experience that I had that just opened the door for me. Is I was going up to New York City and we were working outside the city in Mount Kisco, which is Westchester County. And Tarsa said, hey, you should stop by Marcelo's while you're up there. I trained for like 2 months when I came to the United States there. It's a great gym. There are a good bunch of guys there. And I said, okay, I'll think about it. And I started researching, well, what is the proper etiquette? And so I'll give you what I found as I did my research is the first thing is try to make contact with the gym before you go. I mean, none of this is necessary, but either electronically or by phone. So I would send an email. I sent an email and said, hey, I'm this age. This is my belt rank. I train here. Would it be possible to come to your gym to stop by and train there for a jiu-jitsu session? I'm going to be in the area for work. Do you have any? Can I do that, basically? So a nice email is how I would start. And almost every time that I would send that email, I'd get an email back, and they'd say, yeah, sure, you can train. And I'd always ask, do you have a mat fee? Because I think you need to address that up front, too.
Yeah.
Because
it can be weird otherwise.
Yeah, because some places will have a mat fee, and as I talk to other people that have done it, Tommy told me one place tried to charge him $100 mat fee, and he just said, yeah, that's not going to work, and didn't go train with them. But and so they came back and said, yeah, since you train at American Top Team, and because of Marcelo's relationship with Laborio, it being his, Laborio's the godfather to the kid and all that stuff.
Is he really?
Yeah,
I did not know that.
Yeah, there's a godfather situation for sure.
Did you go to the Marcelo seminar here a couple years ago?
I didn't.
Oh,
That was during the time that I was not as consistent.
Oh, really, man?
Yeah,
That
or I
was
didn't
super
know
awesome,
about it.
by the
I mean,
way.
I really, if that ever happened again, I would certainly be there. And so it was $20 was the mat fee there.
They charge you $20 for Marcelo Garcia Academy mat fee?
Yeah, it was $40 is the normal mat fee.
40 is actually not
Yeah.
that bad, especially if you
and
think
the
about
mat fee
New
is
York,
for the whole day too. It's not just one class. So
really? So it's like a day pass.
It's a day pass is what it is.
That's awesome.
And you could do the morning class, and the morning class is real similar to our morning class, except there's a lot more people.
Sure. I mean, it's Marcelo Garcia.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've gone twice to their morning class and different types of travel, and both times it was a great experience. Both times one of Marcelo's black belts was leading the class, and then there was probably 30 to 40 people, and it was just of all different belts up to black belt. I always got to train with someone that was similar to me, similar in age, similar in size, similar in skill, which was really, really nice. And, I didn't ask anybody to roll there. They just kind of assigned who you were going to get to roll with.
I think that's a traditional thing.
They want to see what kind of guy you are, too. They, if you don't train well with the first person you roll with, then next thing you're going to get the gym enforcer's going to come and, work you over.
All right.
So you do need to have some good etiquette. And so...
Which I don't see you not having good etiquette. You're one of the most respectful people.
And not that I would talk about, I don't want to talk about submissions or what you would try to do to any, but I definitely wasn't going to try to submit anybody or do any of that,
I was actually going to ask that. I'm almost of the mind, if I go to a gym and I'm new there, I'm going to defend myself, but I'm actually not going to try and sub anyone because I feel like that would risk escalation of some kind. Because you don't know me, and I don't. What do you think? Chris is giving a weird look. What do you think about that, Chris?
So maybe I fucked up. I visited a gym. I've only trained outside of Central Florida one time up in Jacksonville. I was a purple belt nearing my brown belt at the time. It was actually the October. We got our brown belts in January. Yeah. I just checked. It was in October, and I went and I visited a gym up there. And I searched around. I found a smaller gym like ours. Not that we're a small gym by any means. We have hundreds of members. But it's not like a chain, I guess, even though we are ATT. That's another story altogether, too. But, I came and I rolled how I normally do. And, I don't feel as though... I mean, I'm not one to push the pace, ever. You guys both have rolled with me. I'm never do that, right? And, and I might have done okay, And, perhaps that was bad etiquette on my part. Like you guys know exactly how my personality is and how I roll.
Did you roll any different from how you currently roll?
No, but okay. So here's the thing: is I did roll a little differently because I came on a day that there was. I roll lazy when it's gi class because you can, right? Because you can stall. But it was no gi class, so I had my no gi gear on, and it just tends to be slipperier. And one thing, actually, I was discussing with Brian McKenzie recently, is my skill level translates better to no gi than it does to gi, because if I do decide to turn on my athleticism, I can actually perform pretty okay, and my cardio can and so I did pretty okay at the time, and so I actually kind of befriended a handful of guys that I rolled with that day, but I didn't hear back from the instructor.
So you know who also adheres to this rule is Chewy.
What's that?
That
Go in and smash?
no, go in and don't submit any.
Go in and don't submit anything.
That's the thing.
I don't know.
Of all people, Christopher Vu.
I didn't by any means bully anybody. I mean, I probably didn't.
You just heel hooked a bunch of white belts.
No, absolutely not.
Did you get to go with the gym enforcer?
Yes. In no-gi. And
Are you secretly a bully when you're not around here?
No, 100%, right? So this is, all right, so this is a guy. Okay, so later on, right? Outside, completely aside. I was contacted later on, after I got my brown belt, I got a random Instagram message from a dude, and I was like, it's I talked to him a handful of times. I'm like, who the fuck are you, basically, And he's like, oh, congratulations, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I remember you beating the shit out of me.
Oh, my God.
I was like, wait, what? And I had to remember back. I was like, oh my God, I guess I might have, but I think.
Are you a closet bully, Chris?
No, absolutely not. No, absolutely not. But I think the gym enforcer was stuck on me twice, and it didn't work.
So
That sounds even worse. That's
you got to go with the gym enforcer twice.
Yeah.
Subsequent, same this round and the next,
I know they're not listening, so maybe I'll. But so I rolled.
What was the gym again? Shout out to this gym.
No. So but I rolled with a dude twice, and I did the thing. I'm I'm looking around, and I looked at the instructor. I was like, eh? It was the last round of the night, and he's like, you go with him. And it was with the dude I had rolled with already. So I was like, all right. So I don't know what the situation was. I can tell you the two dudes I roll with. I mean, there are a couple people who are smaller. The two dudes I roll with are a lot bigger than me. So, and a lot more aggressive than I was. So I think I was able to use my speediness outside of a gi a little bit better to take advantage a little bit. So. Sorry. So you're saying in travel experiences, you're super respectful. You're easily one of the most respectful people I've met in jiu-jitsu. Period. You're one of the. I've told Noah this. You're one of the kindest, most humble people I've met. Is that from martial arts?
Kind of how I was brought up by my mom, by my parents to kind of do that. I mean, you were genuine. You're one of the most genuine, kindest. Because you started martial arts later, as an adult, legally. And so interestingly, I know your aunt and uncle. Yes,
Mike and Phyllis, right?
That's right.
Who their son is your cousin?
That's correct.
And he does jiu-jitsu.
He does down in Miami now.
Okay, awesome. So tell us about that. I didn't know this, and I forgot where it was, but
he started training with Julius at Julius's gym, Spartan BJJ.
Was it by you recommending them, or?
I think it was close to their house, and he just started jiu-jitsu. And it's interesting. I saw him over here at the gym.
When?
On one of our promotions.
Really?
Yeah, because Julius would bring his students over. It may have even been when Julius got his when he got promoted, but before Julius started doing it all at his school, he came over here for the.
That's awesome, man.
And Chad was there for one of them.
So was that So you guys both started training jiu-jitsu independent of one another.
Yeah, and didn't even talk about it really. So,
Really?
Yeah, and
And never talked about it? Like
not
ever?
really, no,
Do you
no.
know now? I mean, you know now.
I know now. Yeah, yeah.
Have you rolled him?
Have I rolled with him? I don't think so. I don't think I've rolled with him. I don't know if we rolled that day when they did the promotions.
So it's not something that you guys are like, I'll get you on the mat one. Did you guys grow up together? Like
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
All right.
No, but yeah, anytime I'd be happy to roll.
That's
with him
awesome.
Whenever you would like to. I mean, it would be fun.
And so Mike is your uncle, right?
Right.
Okay. All right. Mike is your uncle. Phyllis is his wife. And I know Mike and Phyllis by way of my wife, who's in
Through Kiwanis.
Kiwanis with him. Yeah, so
right.
that's how I... Okay. All right. And you also worked with Lonnie.
I did. So Lonnie was the HR person for our market when he worked for the company that I worked for, and his office was a few offices down from me when I was at one of the dealerships as the controller.
Yeah. Lonnie Butcher, shout out to Lonnie, was I had like 3 classes. He was he was a professor for me 3 classes when I was at UCF. So that was a coworker of Colley's.
And Lonnie, which he doesn't know, shout out again to Lonnie, my son is in his class right now.
Is he really?
Yeah, he took it last semester.
Oh.
My son doesn't want me to say anything, so I'm probably, if my son ever does listen to this, I'll be
That's
in trouble.
funny.
But he's in Lonnie's class last semester. And then the program that he does, because anybody in the College of Business is going to take one of Lonnie.
That's true, yeah,
We
yeah.
need to get him doing jiu-jitsu.
I would love to. He is one of the most fun people.
He would have fun in jiu-jitsu.
Oh yeah, he's. I became friends with Lonnie after I took his class because I had him become an advisor for one of my clubs, and our personalities tend to mesh up very well.
I was kind of wondering with both you guys, since you're one of the longer tenured students with Paul, speaking with jiu-jitsu, seeing all the people that have come and gone that you've trained with, that have quit, that have stuck around, what are the main factors that you guys have seen in causing a person to quit or stick with jiu-jitsu?
So a lot of it has to do with life happens. So whether they have to move, whether they have to, something happens where their work, where they're not able to train jiu-jitsu anymore, they could potentially lose interest in it. Maybe, and I don't know any specific person that said this to me, maybe they don't know how to deal with adversity as they're progressing, the challenges that they face on the mat, because when you start learning jiu-jitsu, you're getting it handed to you for a long time. You're stuck on the bottom inside control. Somebody's mounted you, and if you feel uncomfortable with that, and you don't want to solve that problem, it may not last. And I think those are more of the people that we only see for a few months. Maybe they don't like contact. Maybe they were looking for something different, that they didn't understand what they were committing to with jiu-jitsu. But as people stay here longer, usually the thing that keeps them out are injuries. I mean, Paul said it one time. He said it, I think, on my brown belt test. He said, the guys that get to this point, almost all of them are going to make it to black belt. The only thing that's going to stop them from getting there is really if they get hurt. Most people, when they put that kind of commitment in to get to even purple belt, brown belt, they're going to stick through as long as their body can hold up. And if their body doesn't hold up, that they rehab it and get ready to get back on the mats. Because, I feel like I'm going to be able to train a lot longer than Americans have in jiu-jitsu in Brazil, and that gets to Tarsus. There's guys there that are 70 years old that are training jiu-jitsu, and because it's such a new sport here, there aren't guys even my age. There's very few guys that are approaching 50 that are just training in the gym. There's guys that have their own school that are 50, but not guys that were in their 30s that start jiu-jitsu and are still training. I feel like as long as I listen to my body, as long as I train consistently, because you get hurt if you don't train consistently. If I'm not rolling at least semi-hard multiple times a week, when you do roll hard, you can hurt something. So you really have to condition your body to the training that you're going to have. So To answer your question, there's a variety of reasons. I think the longer that they've been here, usually it's injuries. The shorter that it's been here, it's probably dealing with the adversity. And in between, it could be a lot of things, but life happens a lot of times for those guys. Because if we have a guy that's trained with us for 3 years, he didn't all of a sudden lose interest in jiu-jitsu. Something happened where he's not able to train that. And that's why having the support of your friends at the gym, your training partners, is important, because that wayward traveler, you can get them back in and training martial arts again. All you got to do, the longer you're away, the harder it is for you to come back and train. So if I haven't trained for a week, it's really easy for me to come in a week. But if it's been a month, and you come back in, and when you come back in, this is what's interesting. Everybody's gotten way better. That's the thing. I mean, the people are evolving while you're away. They're getting better. They're learning more techniques. The teaching is evolving. There's more details in the techniques. There's things now that chain together that weren't chained together. We would show one individual technique, and now we're doing a 2-month session on ashi and leg entries, which we did that within the last 6 months, which we hadn't done that the whole time, because that's where the game is evolving. I know that's more no-gi than gi, but being able to defend the heel hook and all that stuff, I mean, that's just building that awareness. That's important. And so that's the other thing. When you're away, when you come back, can you take the adversity of not being able to achieve at the same level you were before to kind of get better? Because you do have to take a few steps back to go forward with it and stuff. So I don't know. What do you think, Chris? What do you think the reasons why people stop training?
Hey, there's no one answer, right? I mean, that's the ultimate thing. I mean, like, everybody's got their own reasons. Just in our instructor meetings we've had and stuff, like, there's one thing that is it that there's that meme, and I get it, and there's some truth to it, is like, if you don't want something bad enough, you'll make an excuse, and if you do want something, you'll make the time, basically, right? Sometimes people just don't want it bad enough, right? Like, they find something, and there's nothing wrong with that, because people find other passions. What I find interesting is, like, somebody like you, somebody like me, we've been in it for, I've been in it for almost half my life at this point. You for a good third of your life. Like, we've found there's something in jiu-jitsu and martial arts, and there's something in us that there's that connection that even though we've had layoffs, we find our way back. Whether it's the people, whether it's this sort of like internal drive. I've just never been into team sports, which is why I think I've never like gravitated towards that sort of stuff. What's interesting is you did do team sports, right? Like, I'm surprised to hear that somebody who did team sports understands that sort of like dynamic. When you got injured, didn't get so frustrated, and I think that maybe that accounting problem solving side of you saw that and said, hey, I got injured doing this. How do I avoid this next time? Or how do I prevent it from happening again, blah, blah, blah. Because I do enjoy jiu-jitsu, whereas another person who, I'm not saying they're weaker willed or whatever the case is, might say, this just isn't for me, I got injured, right? And they'll go and they'll play fucking golf or tennis or some bullshit. Not that there's anything wrong with this, but that's what they find doing, right? And there's just not that tiny amount of grit or passion that keeps them coming back to jiu-jitsu. I think everybody can benefit from doing jiu-jitsu, to be honest. I think we're all a bit more out of touch with each other and can stand to sweat in each other's eyeballs some more.
I don't know about that part, but I think what's interesting is Kali's mentioned this more than anyone. I mean, I've never heard another jiu-jitsu practitioner mention this to the degree Kali has, which is your teammates helping bring you back into the fold. And I think that might be from the team sport aspect of things, is that you might not be having the best day on the baseball field, but that's why you're part of a team, because your teammates will carry you that day, and then you'll carry them the next day. And I think with jiu-jitsu, being that it is an individual sport, and for me, I played baseball too. Baseball and tennis were my two big sports, but I went with tennis. So I was more of an individual type person. So maybe I'm more egocentric in that way, but I don't think as much to immediately say, hey, get back on the mat. Hey, you need to come and participate. And I think that comes from the team sport aspect. I think that's a real positive thing, and I think that's something we could probably do a better job of. But The other thing I've noticed is both you guys have faced significant adversity and life changes, whether it be injury, whether it be having a child. Jamie's done the same thing, right? You know, in the middle of this training. And yes, did that affect your training routine? Absolutely. There's no doubt that it affected it, but it didn't eliminate it. So I do think there has to be a significant component of this where deep down you either want to keep doing it and it's a part of you and it's a part of your lifestyle, or it's not. And the people that walk away, yes, we might have failed as a gym or as a community to some degree, but it's also on that person for not really enjoying it enough to say, as you said earlier, making the time or the effort or the money, whatever it is, the sacrifice, to always have jiu-jitsu or whatever it be, whether it be talking about, I want to play soccer every day, or I want to do, pick up soccer, it doesn't have to be jiu-jitsu.
Do you feel yourself or see yourself going back? I know you started training with Sasaki recently doing judo. Do you see yourself going back to doing MMA or Muay Thai or karate?
Yes, but it's more challenging. So every time I say, "Hey, I'm going to do," I think the last time I did a Muay Thai class, I came in and I think I actually. It was like a Saturday, and I was the one doing jiu-jitsu that day, and whoever was going to do Muay Thai, you probably were out of town, and I had to do Muay Thai that day, and we just did some bag work, but man, my back was all tweaked up. I think you have to work striking. My striking. The thing I was good with striking is my kicks. I could kick in the head. For a guy my size, my kicks were good. They were
You're
strong.
extremely flexible.
I'm really
Yeah,
flexible,
like-
and so the kicks were really what I was good at. I did train a little bit where Paul would do the Friday, punch, whatever you want to call it, sparring, I guess is the nicest way to say it. For when we were over at Goldenrod, that's probably when I was the most consistent. It wasn't a long period. It was like 6 months, but you just realize how good those people are, and you go, man, I'm a 45-year-old guy or 42-year-old guy getting punched in the face. This isn't fun as jiu-jitsu. Nobody likes getting punched in the face, I don't think. Maybe there's some people that do. Do you like
I think
it?
there's a special person that likes getting hit in the face. I don't, but I think there's a very select few who do get something out of it.
And so you're going to keep your hands up, but if you're going to train and spar MMA or spar Muay Thai, you're going to get hit in the face and stuff. And so, yes, I do want to train more stand-up. But right now it's more related to jiu-jitsu. I want to be able to compete in a year.
You do? Okay, so
Oh, yeah,
you have
I
a
definitely
good training
wanna-
schedule down for when
yeah,
you want to.
yeah,
What's your date that you want to make it happen?
I'd love to compete in as a Master 5 at Worlds. I'm 48. I'll turn 49 in a month, so I think I'll be a Master 5 next year. So I want to use the next year to try to focus and be ready for that, whatever the circuit will be leading up to that in August of, I guess it would be August of 2021. That's when I want.
What has your experience been with competing? Have you enjoyed it? Obviously, you enjoy it. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it, right?
It's quite a challenge, will be what I would say. The 5 minutes when you're there in front of, and I know they're not looking at you, but you're still there. There's 1,000 or 2,000 people in the arena. You hear the buzz. There's 10 plus mats going on at the same time. They're recording it. They're broadcasting it on Flow Grappling at some of these tournaments. I mean, so you want to try to do the best that you can. It's nice that you get matched up with people that are your same age, your same weight, your same belt, and so all of those will make the matches more even. Generally, if they're competing, they probably like to compete, and so they're good. Some people are good and stuff. The older crew is not as good as the regular, brown
Not as
belt.
good. You can't add more. It's just a different life stage, right? I mean, like you're not to say that they're not as good is unfair.
Well, they would have a tough time. And so if they were to compete, and like someone competing in Master Worlds 4 is different than competing in the Worlds as whatever belt you are, which is every brown belt, every blue belt, every purple belt of that weight class. I mean, it's everybody, not just age specific.
In your experience so far with training or competing in Masters Worlds, has it been like you're competing against professional jiu-jitsu athletes, or is it more people who are in the same life situation as you? Like they're probably working, like
Agreed that they are, but they're definitely focused on the competition would be what I would say. So, one of the guys that I went with, I followed him. He has competed the whole time. It looks like that he's been doing it. So he competed as a purple belt. He competed as a brown belt. He'll probably compete as a brown belt. I see him competing in a lot of competitions. One of the guys I went with.
What are you gonna do differently leading up to? So obviously you're working your stand up separately. What are you gonna do differently to start ramping up for that competition then?
Work on my fitness level. I want to add additional things to my game. I want to work on my stand-up. I want to get better at my guard.
What do you do outside of the gym for fitness?
So I'll lift weights. I'll run. I'll do... I'm working at Justin's gym right now, which is like a strength kind of...
Next level? Third level?
It's New Dimension
Wellness.
Oh,
my God. I'm
wellness.
I threw out all the buzzwords, and I got them all fucked up.
And he has a... his training is set up for functional movements. It's not heavy weights, but what's interesting is, doing his training. I've been doing it, once or twice a week for probably since about September. When I do lift weights, I'm stronger. So
so it's working. Right?
It's working. So and I feel stronger on the mat, and I feel more fit, and my back doesn't hurt as often as it does. So it's helping. I'm strengthening the internal, and I'm working on some things that balance and things where my head position will get off center sometimes when I'm stepping out, and I could see it in the mirror, and we were doing some functional training, and I could see my head offline, and then when I got my head more centered in the middle, it helped with my balance and stuff. So it's helping with my balance, it's helping with my flexibility, my strength, the stamina. There's a little bit of cardio, so that's another thing, but I'll always do something because I try to keep the training fresh.
And I always see you, like when you're traveling, you're out there running, right? Like
I'll do that. Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
This past week, I just did it in the gym this past week because it was like 30 degrees in Memphis when I was there. But it's just a little, small hotel gym with just weights and a elliptical or a treadmill and stuff. That would be when I'm traveling for work that I would do and stuff.
What is your biggest challenge right now? Do you feel looking forward to competing as a black belt in Masters Worlds? Like you said, you're working on all of these different facets. Like where is it that you want to focus the most right now? Because you've competed how many times recently as a brown belt?
As a brown belt, I probably did about 8 or 10 different places where I would go. It's hard to get a match as a Masters 4 brown belt.
I was going to say, how big are these brackets typically?
Like in Orlando, the last time I competed was in Orlando. I got one person, and he came over.
And that was an IBJJF, or
he came over from Tampa, and he ended up winning the Worlds that year. So I got to go with the guy that won the Worlds that year, and stuff. So that was a good experience for me.
Are you getting a good look as to what to expect coming in the next year, like because in general the guys who are going to be competitive are going to be competitive then, right? Are you watching tape on them, working on what you need to work on? I don't want to give away trade secrets and stuff, but
I don't have any trade secrets, Chris. But yeah, I've looked at the guys that are competing as a Master 4 or 5. I've seen how good they are, and I know what a challenge.
The likelihood of
most likely it would just be the experience. I don't have any aspirations in the first or the second time. I just want to compete because the people that are there are really good and different from competing as a brown belt when I was probably on the mats longer than them. I probably had more experience. I won't have the most experience. I'm just a baby in terms of where I need to be from a developmental perspective. And so to answer your question, I need to work on everything. I need to get better. I need to work on my cardio, my fitness, my stand-up, my guard passing, and my guard retention. I need to just try to evolve the game the best I can to be ready, and then mentally I need to be ready to go when you hit the mat, because it's the amount of energy you exert in 5 minutes there always seems different than 5 minutes on the mat. It seems like you went 30 minutes, and you just leave it all out there, hopefully, if you get to that point in the round. And you may get to fight 2 or 3 fights or rounds.
Your matches that you've had, have you always gone with other folks, or were you there without, like, were you there with like Tarsus and John and stuff, or were you?
So I would go to, like, in the so I've gone with John and Tarsus a couple times. We did Atlanta. I would meet him up there. I flew into Atlanta one time. I did Charlotte one time. I don't think they were at Charlotte. And then Tarsus was always down in Miami, and I went down to Miami.
So you were literally there by yourself?
I would drive down. Yeah, I don't
Really?
mind traveling by myself. And then for the California trip, I took my wife for the Pan Ams.
Right. You went to California or Vegas?
I did both.
Okay.
Vegas is where they do the Master Worlds, and then California is where they do the Pan Am Games. And so that'd be like one of the 4, like the Grand Slam for tennis. I mean, it's going to be the Pan Ams, the Masters World, the European Champion, and the Brazilian National. Those are kind of on IBJJF. Those would be the big 4 that they would have and stuff. And if you take out Masters Worlds and you were competing at the normal level, you'd have the Worlds, which is that's in a different time frame than the Masters Worlds. But I wouldn't have known anything about it without being exposed by Tarsus and stuff.
How, like, when you compete again in Florida the next year, are you looking to have a team there with you?
I've talked to people that say, "Hey, I'd like to go compete and stuff." I know John wants to compete.
Yeah. He's the new director of social competition.
John wants to compete. He's going to compete this year.
Yeah.
I talked to Justin, a friend that when I was training, he's thinking about competing. So I mean, it's good to go with someone. But if I only say, hey, I'm only going to compete if I have a team or somebody, then you're going to miss out on a lot. You just need to kind of do it, would be what I would say. It's better when someone's there and you can hear them talking to you, because if you're out there kind of by yourself without a word of a corner man per se, then it's more challenging on the mat for sure.
Definitely a disadvantage for sure, just because having that second set of eyes.
Yeah, like alone is strategically is.
Yeah, it's huge. So as kind of we wind this thing down, Kali, outside of getting your black belt, give us like one of your best moments on the mat.
I mean, I like sharing time with friends and the people that I meet here, because I think they're people that I wouldn't normally meet, being an accountant or working in the business I would be. So it's really nice. There's so many good people that we have. So really it's the friendships that you develop on the mat, the people you get to meet. And I like that probably the best. I think that as I continue to grow and evolve, I like seeing people getting better. That's probably the thing that's most enjoyable to me. I really like to see, I go, wow, that guy's getting super good. Look how good his technique looks. His jiu-jitsu's getting good, or his stand-up looks super tight. Boy, I wish I was 22 years old or 25 and looked like that and had that kind of technique. Just imagine how good they could be in 10 years. So that excites me probably more than anything, is seeing the gym grow and evolve. So that's probably the friendships, and then seeing everybody getting better.
Well, I think that's kind of a rare quality, because it's great to have people on the mats that want to bring people up and almost cheer and support the development of other people instead of trying to elevate themselves and bring other people down. Because I know, especially, we're all competing on the mats. We're all teammates, but we're also competing. There's a tendency for some people to covet knowledge, to want to maintain their status in a pecking order. And you're coming at it from a totally different angle, which is like, if I see someone kicking ass, whether they're 22, whether they're 42, whether they're 62, it doesn't matter. that's awesome, and that makes the gym better, and that makes me excited to train. And I think if more people had your attitude, not that I'm saying our gym has a bunch of assholes in it, we don't, but I think just in general, the more people that adopt an attitude like yours is going to make a training environment a million times better.
So I know you and I discussed the other day, actually, in one of our morning sessions. We were discussing, like, what is your overall strategy of jiu-jitsu? You described it as your meta. Like, my game, as most people probably know, is sort of like try to pull guard and try to sweep and then either try to take the back or whatever the case is from there. You said you have a certain strategy always in mind. Now, as both of us are black belts, we've sort of refined our own game. Where do you want to? What's your next area of focus? Like, what do you want to work on next? Stand up aside, because all jiu-jitsu folks, we can all agree for the most part, have pretty shitty stand up. Where do you want to focus next, necessarily?
So, and I got that kind of philosophy from Steve Ramos, because I mean, he would have been teaching, running a class as a blue belt, and we may not have even been in class. He basically said, "Hey, man, you got to have a strategy. My strategy is I'm going to take people down, I'm going to get their back, and I'm going to choke them out." That was his simple strategy.
And it's a good strategy.
That's Savage Jiu-Jitsu 101. So my general strategy is I want to take the person down. I want to try to pass their guard. As I pass their guard, and I may not pass their guard, I could get to side control. So as I transition from just a regular closed guard or whatever form of guard, a De La Riva or whatever, I'm going to try to get into half guard. And from half guard, I'll start attacking. I'll start doing submissions and whatever along the way. I'll eventually try to pass if I can't get a submission along the way. I'll try to mount. And then the whole time trying to submit. So what's the next thing for me? I need to get the back take. That's really the one where I need to get better at now, going to take the back. And you could take the back before if it presented versus the regular top mount. But I think I want to get that part in my attack.
You hit a rolling back take the other day with Julian's. Or Julian. Oh, my God. I did it again. With Julius, right?
They got to try to work on it.
You're right. It's there, and you did it. So
yeah, when we were drilling, not live. So let's make that very clear. I wasn't taking Julius's back during a live session.
This is true.
We were drilling.
We were working on it.
Yeah, he was showing me some something off of what we're working and stuff. So and then I think when I'm not in the attack mode, I need to be more attack. So when I'm playing guard, I need to attack more, because I do like you do. When I'm in guard, I'm going to sweep versus submit. So I think that in my game, I need to have more attacks along the way to make the person feel uncomfortable, because the people, in my opinion, that have the best guards, and that I'm the most scared about trying to pass their guard, or not scared, cautious, are people that are going to submit me along the way, that they're going to put me in a triangle, they're going to try to do an arm bar, they're going to put me in an omoplata from their guard, not just sweep. And so I sweep, I need to work more triangles and get more attacks from my guard. That would be what I would be.
So I can tell you from my experience what your number one submissions are. What do you feel your number one submissions are?
So my favorite chokes are going to be anything that's a gi type choke. I like the cross choke. I love the bow and arrow. I'm going to always try to get those. I like the Kimura. I like the Americana. I like the short choke now from the back, which is something that Brian showed me recently, where you bring it across the chin. I think it's a lot more. It seems to be a lot more effective. I've finished that a lot more than I've been finishing the rear naked. So I like that. So those are kind of the ones I like from guard. The triangle is the one that I'll work. The triangle and the arm lock is what I. So what do you see? What do you see that I like?
Gi chokes definitely.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Definitely
100%.
Like from every position, you'll
yes.
You start with the gi choke, which is a good strategy. It's actually a very old school strategy.
Yeah.
It's like, if you want to do this, start with the gi choke. If you want to do this, start with the gi choke. If that fails, an Americana is usually in order, because I'll be framing. If that fails, then you'll somehow roll me to my back or something. But yeah, the gi chokes are always the one that's sort of like, that's like the jab to get it started, and if that fails, and you move on to something else. you're not necessarily on your back all that much with me, so that's a story that we don't really play all that often. But yeah, no, and you're good at it, so it's like it's something that I don't do enough is gi work, so I use it more defensively than offensively, just as you just mentioned. So how has your experience been with judo so far?
I feel like a fish out of water right now. So you're starting basically at the first level. The footwork, what's interesting is there's a lot of footwork where you have to work your whole body to get the technique to work. And so right now I'm having challenges connecting the feet, the arms, and then my body all together. But I think that I'll make that connection, and it's going to help out. We worked the other day the Uchigari, right?
Uchigari, yeah.
Uchigari which is the inner reap that we did the other day as a warm-up.
Large
inner reap. One of the 40 judo throws.
But that's the thing is, right? One thing about judo is there's consistent terminology across all judo schools. So, like, it's easier to pass on knowledge that way. There's not this, like, I don't know what this technique's called, but we all do it, and then this school calls it this. But either way, so yeah.
And so it's good to kind of
yeah.
on that particular thing to get real formal training from someone that's a judoka master. Sasaki is about as high level as you're going to get in this area in Florida. So it's really good to be able to go train at his school and to learn something new, for sure. The first day I got to go with a guy that was similar size with me, which was really nice.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was a guy that was a 240-pound black belt that, and that's why I said I felt like a fish out of water. I could feel the power of his judo and the leverage that he got on me from being in a better position from a stand-up position. And it felt very uncomfortable, and I couldn't grab his leg, which the whole time I wanted to grab the leg
really
for a single leg or go for a double. And I think the last time I trained, I grabbed the guy's leg and I go, oh man, I can't grab his leg. And so I don't know all the rules yet, and but I do, and we've always done something judo, whether it was here, we would do some judo at karate. So, but it's never, and I've done some judo specific for BJJ. Tarsus kind of worked that in Tarsus, and he had George Conti, who's a black belt. He would. I've taken some of his classes. He had like another session for judo, but I'll make the connections. Hopefully I can, because of the experience from other martial arts, it will help me develop quicker or make those connections where I don't feel like I'm off balance. I don't feel like I'm being dominated physically from somebody standing up and stuff.
There aren't many people who are going to necessarily physically dominate you anywhere. So somebody asked us the other day, actually they flipped the script on us, and they asked like me and Noah, like how much outside of the gym are we like studying jiu-jitsu things, right? Like how much are you studying jiu-jitsu outside the gym?
So I've started studying more, and so really I think I didn't talk about Tommy, but Tommy's had a big influence on me, specifically on getting better at technique. And so Tommy encouraged me to come to the 6:30 class, and so part of that camaraderie with the the fellowship with your brothers on the mat is if I make a commitment to know I'm going to be here on Saturday at 12 o'clock, even if I don't feel good, even if I'm going to come. And so when I tell Tommy, hey, I'm going to come to your class at 6 o'clock, I'd come. And he has a wealth of knowledge from technique. And so he would pique my interest in certain techniques, and then I would start studying. And, at first I want to study the material that's specific to our gym. So Paul does have some stuff out there. Tommy does have some stuff. It's not all the time, and it's not as consistent, but I'll look their stuff up, and I've learned a lot, because if I haven't had FaceTime with Paul, I've seen him say like his philosophy on belts. He's got that on YouTube. I've seen that. I've seen him talk about training and not just technique. So I like when I see that in addition, because sometimes in a class he doesn't share that information. He may share that in a one-on-one situation with you, but it's really nice to see that type of thing. So I like to see that. So I started with that. And go ahead.
No, you hear that, Paul? Kali wants to see more vlogs. He doesn't. He's not listening. He's like, I'm not listening to you right now.
Pretending not to listen.
I know he hears me, but he's not acknowledging me. He's told me for the past 6 months that he's gonna, like, every few weeks, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna publish that blog now. Like I've got like 2 or 3 like in the bank. I'm gonna publish them. I'm like, bullshit. You're not.
But that's the thing is, we want to hear it as students. Like we want to hear it. Like
A lot of people are clamoring for this kind of stuff. Absolutely.
I miss the old. Do you remember at Dean University the monthly newsletter?
I don't remember the newsletter.
Oh man,
Did you author it?
No, no. Paul did like digital. He would do like I don't know,
An email newsletter or
a physically printed newsletter.
what was it called?
I don't remember, but I remember he would write articles about fitness, some articles about like whatever technique is, like basically his vlogs in.
Wow, look at that. Well, he does go ham whenever he posts a social media post. It's not like great training #grinding. It's like 3 paragraphs of philosophy and stuff.
But it's good for us to hear that too, right? Like
I like that. So
I love that
that's part of to get back to your question, some of the studying is I'll get a little bit on Facebook. Something will pop up that I want to look at. I like on Facebook the quick stuff that I can look at. And really I'm looking more for details that I can maybe incorporate in my game. And then I'll do some specific studying. Like if I said, hey, we went over this in class, I want to get another perspective on it. And I'll look at that, or I wanted to reinforce it because I don't have a video from the class. So now I want to follow up and try to retain it a little better. I'll look at something on YouTube. I do look at YouTube. I do have some of the Danaher stuff and the Gordon Ryan and all that stuff. It's all paid for, not shared illegally. But
Shout out to BJJ Fanatics, Bernardo Faria.
yes,
yeah,
huge honor for us.
Huge honor for us. I don't know if Chris is gonna remember this, but I think I'm a pretty perceptive guy, and earlier in this conversation, near the beginning, Kali was talking about being 48 now, looking at his life in the perspective of, this is what I have physically. Things are going to change over time. I want to give back. I want to treat. And I happen to glance over at Chris, and Chris is always an attentive listener, but he seemed to really, I felt like something resonated with you when he was saying that. And you even like gave him you took your beer and you're like, cheers after he said that. What was going through your mind? Because I felt like he struck a nerve with you talking about that, and I don't know if that had to do with.
Not struck a nerve in a bad way.
No. Struck a nerve.
Struck a chord.
Struck a chord. Like it resonated with you.
It did.
What was going through your mind? Because I wanted to bring that up, but it felt like it was kind of deep. But I was like, fuck it, we're gonna bring it up.
It's so like I'm now that I'm not aging by any means. I'm 37. We'll be 8 in a couple months. I mean, like I'm not as young as I was. That's just obvious, right? But like, and as I learn more about society and as I learn more about the evolution of, our sort of like sub gym is called tribe martial arts. A big part of tribe is the elders passing on information, right? Because like it's not us that matters, it's the jiu-jitsu and the community that matters. And a big part of that is having the right people in place to disseminate what we learn to the next generation, right? Because the goal should always be, in my opinion, that and this stems back to even Paul before all this tribe stuff came into play, was the idea that it took him X amount of years to get a blue belt. He should have us getting to his level faster, and me now as a black belt and Kali as a black belt, our goal should be to bring guys who are blue belts, purple belts, and brown belts below us to our level even faster, right? Like, because there should be constant evolution in technique, constant evolution in training methods, and just constant evolution in our ability to teach, to be able to disseminate that to the next generation. So everybody gets better. Jiu-jitsu gets better. We get better as instructors, despite our ailing bodies, which I'm definitely not immune to that by any means. Like that's the most important thing. And I think that's a thing that comes with, I don't think you achieve a level of black belt until you've understood that being a black belt in jiu-jitsu, or any martial art for that matter, is That's what it's about, and it's not about you. That's me. Like that. That's why it struck a chord with me when he
This is the black belt wisdom. The black belt
and
wisdom.
maybe it sounds super hokey and stuff, but I mean, like, I don't think I'd be doing this as long as I have, and I don't think Collie would be doing this as long as he has without the community and without, honestly, like, we do it because we love everybody, right? Like, and that's what it's about. So,
Well, I can't think of a better way to wrap up the podcast with that. That sounds good. Collie, thank you so much, man. It's been an absolute pleasure. There's anything you wanted to add before closing thoughts from Collie?
I appreciate you guys having me on.
Oh, this pleasure's all ours.
Listen to. I think I'm one.
Are you caught up?
I'm not all the way caught up, but I'll listen to it at work. I'll listen to it while I travel. I like to hear the story of people at our gym. I like to hear people share their philosophies. They don't have to necessarily be from our gym. I know now they have been. A lot of them have been from the gym, but it's
gotten
really
more lined up.
Don't
worry.
It's great to be able to hear people talking about their experience, and I think we can learn from them. And I just like to thank everybody at the academy, anybody that I've trained with, my wife, obviously my wife and my son. Their sacrifices for me to be able to train. I just want to thank all that. Hopefully we can all continue to evolve and get better together. And I'll kind of say, like Chris said, I want everybody to get better faster, but not because the time is shorter. It's because they're training harder than we did. And I do agree that the teaching methods are better.
Way better.
It has to be the knowledge is there. You have to put time in on the mat. You have to get to a certain level at grappling. It's not just technique. It's applying it in live rounds and live situations. So I think that's important as well. You can't learn jiu-jitsu in a book or on the internet. You have to come to class. You have to put the time in. You have to drill and practice and do live rounds. You have to do all of that. The live rounds make you tougher, but the drill and the practice helps get the technique into your game that once those physical skills that you have, and you may have no physical skills, you just may be a regular guy, never done anything athletically, but once they deteriorate and all you have is just yourself, it's the technique that's going to trump that. I mean, for me, I'm lucky, I'm blessed, I'm big, I'm strong, but as I lose my strength, I'm going to have to rely more on weakness. Because
you're not losing your strength, Golly.
I will. I mean, you lose your strength. I'm losing my athleticism where, things that were easy to perform aren't as easy to perform now, but I still do have some strength. So I'm lucky that I have that. And it makes the rounds and the training where it's not as challenging. But at the end of the day, when you're a 70-year-old man, if you're doing jiu-jitsu, it's going to come down to the technique. It's not going to be because I'm stronger than this guy, I'm faster. You're going to be slower, weaker, and older than anybody you would go with. And so the only way you can overcome that is the technique. And so I think we all start jiu-jitsu with some attribute that may give us an advantage. We may be quick, we may be nimble, we may be all of that, but at some point it's the technique that's going to be important. Trying to learn that is what I want to continue to try to do as long as I can.
That's awesome. Collie, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, guys.